Hello, everyone in the wide, wide world. I am Stephen Drew, and this is Thursday. I know I normally do these on a Wednesday, but we've got an extra special show, and we have to just see which way it goes. Nobody knows, and we always do these live and unscripted, and you can add a comment at any point during the live stream. But today, we're gonna move out of our physical constraints. We're gonna use our imagination and go on to a bit of a journey here. So I'm joined by a fantastic guest all the way across the world who's got up extra special to join us on lunch today. So I'm very grateful. And can we have a round of applause for Matheus from Sunken Blimp? How are you today?
Hey everyone, I'm doing great, amazing. Thank you so much for having me here. I've seen the platform for such a long time, well, actually not a long time, short time, but I discovered it. I was amazed by all the conversations, everything that happened. So it's an honor to be here.
Hey, that's very sweet of you. I suppose in like NFT, metaverse, digital architecture world, like a week or two, it's like dog years, right? It's like we've known each other for years in that sense. So we were going to introduce Sunken Blimp in a second, but I've got one or two new upgrades on the podcast that I forgot to do. So I've got background music for us, so we can enjoy a little bit of background music. And I thought we'd start the journey by teleporting. So we're going to go wild, right? We're going to go a bit deep. Now, I couldn't find a meme of a blimp, but a submarine, we kind of get there.
Oh, we got to make some. For sure.
We'll make some for next time. But maybe you want to tell everyone a little bit about who you are and what your involvement is with Sunken Blimp.
Of course. So my name is Matheus. I'm originally from Brazil. I grew up my whole life there. I was actually born in a family of architects, a nest of architects.
Awesome. Oh, yeah, wow.
My mom, dad, my grandparents, my sisters, my aunts. So everyone in architecture. And that was not a pressure to join architecture. It was more like I was born into it. So I saw the beauty and the ugly part of it, right? And it spiked interest. So my dream when in Brazil was to come to a university in the United States. And I eventually got to come here and do my master's in architecture at Florida International University.
Very cool.
Studying, traditional architecture. And during this process, I started getting interested in robotics, participating in a couple of projects with robotic arms and parametric construction and architecture.
Very cool.
And then I started realizing that there's more to the traditional way of doing architecture, right?
Right.
The normal or traditional construction. So I started researching within that. And then towards my final year of school, I decided to take on this one professor for my thesis that his whole research, he's a theologist, and everything that he researches is within artificial intelligence and machine learning in architecture. And all of this field that is all specular in a way, it's not really implemented into the field, but it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
And then I chose to do my 1-year research for my thesis on the intersection between architecture, neuroscience, and artificial intelligence.
Wow.
And, started developing this research on how to use memories to change the way we perceive the physical space.
Right.
So that was, a bit of, starting from scratch, because you learned for 4 years how to do, plan sections, all of that. And now starting a whole research, dealing with neurologists and, talking to all of these people that are researching cognitive science. And in a way, this opened doors to a lot of interesting questions. What if we can do things differently? What if we can merge different fields to change the way we live, right?
Yeah. Very cool.
And at that time, that was right after, this was 2021, last year, in the beginning of the year, right? And during the pandemic, I started posting architectural things on social media because, quarantine, you're bored. And
absolutely.
Of course. So on TikTok, that's where I found, that was a good stage to showcase those things, experimentations, quick things. So I started posting, the account started growing with architectural related content. And then when I was doing my thesis, I posted a video talking about this thesis idea, accessing different dimensions, using memories to change architectural perception. And for some reason, the video kind of blew up, right?
Wow.
And this was 2 weeks before I actually presented the thesis. And the video was shared on Twitter, shared on Instagram, Facebook, and it reached a total amount in the different platforms of 7 to 8 million people that watched the video.
Holy, I can't swear because it's like, yeah, holy, right? That's a lot of views, surely.
Yeah. And that has a good and a bad side, right? A lot of people, came supporting the idea, and a lot of people had a negative commentary towards it in the sense of, oh, you don't know what you're doing. You're supposed to be doing a building, right?
Yeah. How dare you challenge and all that stuff.
So at that time, I kind of closed my eyes to social media. Let me just focus on the thesis. And in the end, even though there was some pressure, I need to show and prove that I'm actually doing, I've been doing research. At the same time, it was interesting to see people from outside of the field, even outside of architecture and neuroscience, their commentary, their reaction towards something like that. I ended up, finishing everything, presenting the thesis to, the small jury, right? Because each professor has its own small jury. And then one professor at the end selects one person to present again to the super jury, which is, the entire school. And I was lucky enough to be, chosen to present again to the entire class and the entire school, which was, nerve-wracking at the time.
Of course.
And then I presented again. And even though this wasn't typical architecture, I was fortunate enough to receive the Super Jury Award at the end for this research, which it was a huge achievement for myself. I'm very honored to receive that. And it was pretty exciting to see that even the school board, the people voting for it, saw that perhaps architecture could take different forms and different ways, different approaches, right?
Yeah. Amazing.
Yes.
Look, it's awesome. And look, I'm going to give a round of applause for that. Now, I can't hear it, so hopefully it's played there. But you're going to have to be my ears. And if there's any sounds coming on, let me know. Because the other week I did like 5 minutes of a 30-minute live stream, and I sounded like Mickey Mouse. So hopefully that won't happen. If my voice starts sounding like that, let me know. Yeah, please. But it's interesting. So I actually saw that TikTok video a while ago, and I'm going to try a new song on called Into Space while we talk. But I found your video because I was like looking at architecture NFTs, which I know is just one part of the Sunken Blimp, and you can go into that and your experimentation in a second. But that's where I was aware of you. And then I did a podcast with Renovi, which are building up to be the architecture marketplace for the metaverse and NFT. And I'm kind of curious in that space. So that has my curiosity. And as well, I know it has your curiosity. And he mentioned, so Adonis, who runs it, he mentioned Sunken Blimp. Okay. So I started looking on, and then I think I went on your Discord, which I think is that sound in the background there a second ago, right? The little blub, 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 blub.
Yeah.
And Discord is kind of important in these little mini communities. Don't worry about the sound, by the way. That's just me just teasing you slightly. And I get people ringing me during the live stream, which can be even worse. But do you want to tell me a bit about then, because it's good to know your build up, good to know your research and history. So what is the Sunken Blimp about? And maybe it might be, if you want to start sharing your screen, you can. If not, I've got the website here. Maybe I can bring it up while you get some stuff ready. It's a bit of eye candy for us all to look at.
Yes, of course. So the whole idea of Sunken Blimp is to be a vessel for this type of exploration, right? After graduation, I had to choose if I was going into a firm, getting an internship, and then because of the range of how these ideas reached, it interested some people that were like, okay, maybe we should, keep doing this research. Maybe we can, put this into an entire project and lead it further. So that's, a bit of how Sunken Blimp came to be. My co-founder, his name is Desal. He's actually trained as a clinical neurologist.
Wow.
So,
that's pretty special, isn't it?
So it is a completely different, completely different worlds, completely different fields. But we both, in each of our fields, thought perhaps there's something deeper in here, and perhaps we can collaborate to do something that goes beyond, right?
Love it.
And that's the whole premise of Sunken Blimp, questioning the way we're doing things and explore within design, explore within sciences and technology. And within that basis, we've been doing, many different projects, dealing, with a lot of how to merge virtual and physical worlds. And there's a lot of hype, right? Let's say within that idea, virtual and digital, the so-called metaverse, NFTs. And what is important to understand that these are only technologies, right? Technologies allow you to do something, and it's what you do with them that really matter. The same thing that, a hammer, you can be used for anything, right? You can hurt someone, or you can build a house, right? So within this digital and physical, the idea is data, right? Information about who you are, Stephen, right now. There's already information flowing everywhere, right? The whole thing that Google knows more about you than you do.
Yeah, I believe that.
Exactly. Information is a thing, and it is, right now traded digitally. The way we live in physical spaces, most of the times are not connected to, this information, who you are. So the idea of personalization of spaces, or personalizing how you experience something in the physical world using information that belongs to you, who you are, that's something that is interesting, because then that deals with this connection between physical and digital spaces that right now we don't have yet. For example, right now we're using a piece of technology, right? This screen with this camera, this microphone, to be connected. And that's something, it's an appendix to the space we're in. It's almost like, we have to designate a piece of our space to this technology to be in. And thinking, 15, 20 years from now, perhaps the way we live is more integrated within these technologies we've created to, connect physical spaces, Miami to London. And that could be part of so-called architecture, which is, in a way, just the shelter we create to inhabit and live, really. So I think that's the interesting question. It's a different approach to architecture, thinking about, it goes back to the primitive hut. What are your needs, and the space around you need to fulfill those needs. And our needs are changing, and we have more building blocks. Thinking about the digital, we have now digital building blocks we can use within the physical space.
Very interesting. A little bit differently, but you're right. At the same time, my needs are, because during the pandemic, like yourself, I also set up the Architecture Social, which has kind of evolved, and it started out like a community. And actually, by nature, designing a community online is very different than, in one sense, a physical community. But also, I tend to find, while I haven't done architecture for many years, the way I kind of approach that, of looking at the needs, the movement, introducing things, is a little bit like how I was taught in architecture, and things that you have to adapt. So, for instance, there's less people currently on the forum, but there's more people on the website. But during the pandemic, everyone wanted a place to go. Everyone wanted to feel like part of a community, because they're all in their own rooms. And to your point as well, like, my webcam has got better, because I started out with a little bit of a not so good one, and then you go up and up and up, and you're right, I start tailoring the room for these environments. So I kind of understand what you say, and I think it's going to be a big, important part. And maybe what would be interesting to get your thoughts. You mentioned earlier that sometimes you come across some passionate architectural professionals who don't agree with the way things are going. If it helps you, years ago, when I worked in recruitment, I'd often work on BIM-centric roles, and I would sometimes get lambasted down the phone by people saying, why do I have to learn Revit? Why do I have to do this? And in the end, I think what you've just got to do is just go, hey, you do what you want. but there's lots of people that are excited in this world, and there's a lot of innovation here. So I know you were on a podcast, you spoke to Patrick Schumacher's Our Deeds all in the metaverse. There's all these different kinds of metaverse. We've got the NFT architecture marketplaces coming out. So it's an exciting time, right, to get involved in this stuff, surely.
Absolutely. And there are amazing people out there that are also researching within these fields. And you mentioned, for example, Renovi, right? And this whole idea of creating this marketplace, I think it's brilliant and it's needed. And the idea that this is a technology, right? And people see, oh, why own a JPEG, right? The whole screenshot.
Oh yeah, I've heard that whole NFT thing, and like on one side, okay, maybe there's a point there, but you don't have to buy the NFT. It's like, if you don't want to get involved, then that's fine. But then
this point misses on the whole idea that this is a technology that allows for digital things to be transferred in a way that we trust, right? It's a trustless, actually, a transaction, because you don't need to trust the person. You don't need to believe it's actually written within the metadata, right? The actual information that is clear, it's transparent. So in that sense, the same way that you believe a pound, right? I was going to say the US dollar, but in your case,
you can do pounds, dollars, euros. It's all good.
You believe in money because it's a shared understanding that that's valuable. Now, once you have, if you don't have that digitally, then sharing. I'm going to use an example. Sharing a Revit file, right? Then you receiving the Revit file and sharing it around, it just becomes. It feels like the black market, because then you can ask for someone if they have libraries, and it becomes this. It's not organized. It doesn't have a structure to it, and the NFTs itself and the blockchain allow for this system of belief and trustless transactions within digital assets in a way. And it goes beyond that. There's so many things, okay? It's not only that. I'm not saying that NFTs are going to be used for sharing Revit files, but it creates this whole new world of possibilities that allow for everything architects have been doing, for example, to have this other layer of contractual, in a way, utilities. And I think that's extremely exciting.
Well, that's the opportunity. I think if rather than focusing on perhaps maybe what is not working with the current situation, it's like, how can you add value to certain situations? So in terms of NFTs, what I'm looking at and exploring, and I know I've sent you one or two private stuff, and I'm going to get some ideas soon, but with me, it's all about because the architecture social, a lot of the work I've done is about careers, enabling careers, supporting people. And so if that's what I've done, maybe there's an NFT application there, right? But it has to work for people. It has to have a value to be useful. And I think that's the beautiful thing with NFTs, is that there's loads of like rubbishy ones out there and they don't get noticed, but having something of value, it's the community which decides if it's valuable, right? So, I mean, that's probably another key word that we can talk about with Sunken Blimp. So tell me, because it's not just yourself. You mentioned it's a co-founder, and I'm in your Discord group, and I'm going to put the link up here where people can go onto your website and they can also check out there, and then they can find the Discord community and so forth. But do you want to tell me a little bit about the people that you've kind of met and what you're experimenting with at the moment? Maybe what collaborations have come out of it so far?
Yes, of course. So there are, of course, different fronts of Sunken Blimp, right? Different projects we're working on. The first one we actually started exploring with is actually in agriculture, which is something that I was not expecting. But and the whole premise was to use digital fabrication and digital design to come up with a solution for the problem of land scarcity in Southeast Asia, specifically in Sri Lanka. So there's not a lot of land for agriculture, and that makes products be a higher cost, and etc. And the whole premise was what if we can create a design for a hydroponic system that is more efficient and we can produce more, And that has many questions, right? So we started collaborating with hydroponic specialists and an engineer
Wow.
to actually come up with this, different variations of the design and optimize it. And what we were designing is it's a hydroponic system for farming that uses
Yeah.
bamboo for the structure and 3D printed bioplastics. So in that
Amazing.
sense, it's a carbon negative project because it's taking CO2 out of the atmosphere for the actual construction.
Great. I'm going to
And
bring up a video of some of the cool stuff you've done. I don't know whether this was the exact project, but you
yeah, so this video is super. I think it's cool, right? Because we decided to show our roadmap and everything we're doing within Sunken Blimp in a 3D space instead of showcasing that in 2D. If the whole idea is spatializing information, then let's present about it in 3D. And this is one of the variations of the greenhouse with the bamboo and 3D printed bioplastics. And the idea is that within Sunken Blimp, we're going to prototype and build some of these ideas, right, in physical land. So it's this combination of collaborating.
Oh, there you are.
Community.
Look at you. There you go.
Of course. And that's the whole idea of what we call the sanctuary, is physical land that we're looking into, where we're going to do all of these prototypes. So we're going to parcel it out into different sections, and then each section will be to build and prototype a new idea that deals with, sustainable farming or affordable housing, carbon negative housing, that takes CO2 out of the atmosphere. So
cool.
Prototype all of these things.
Well, you're very organized, because I haven't even done my roadmap yet. Huh?
So yeah, that's me in the elevator, right, in this platform thing, and then we talk about the entire project, like the hall pass. That's the NFT that we are creating. So
got it.
An NFT that gives you access, and it gives you many things like the gear door. The gear door is a physical product that comes with the NFT.
How cool is this video?
And it allows you to open a door handle. So that's just a gift saying, hey, we can change the way we do things, the way we live. And the whole idea with this NFT is that it will give you access to also the sanctuary and the community. So you could present a project that could be prototyped and built in the physical land. If you, Stephen, you have one of these and you participate in the contest and your idea is chosen,
I've seen this. Yeah.
And that's the stage.
I love the stage. What's the platform that you're going to put it on?
We already have it. We had the inauguration this Tuesday, 2 days ago.
Oh, man, I'm late. I need to go see it. Was it good?
Come next Tuesday. We're going to have an event to talk about the greenhouse.
All right. I'll come to the Tuesday one. I've got it. What time is it in the US?
That's going to be 12 p.m.
Okay.
So noon East.
Oh, it's not bad then. Yeah. Great.
Yeah, that's a time that kind of works for a lot of...
Yeah, us Brits can still get there, they can pop up then, right? That's cool.
Yes, of course. And then we're going to have a phygital party afterwards. So it's going to be a physical party and people can join through digital spaces. And then these contests, right? So the contest,
excellent.
If your idea is chosen, it's going to get built and prototyped. So our idea for expanding this after the second NFT launch is to actually build physical labs with robotic arms, 3D printers, concrete 3D printers that you can access through these virtual labs. So imagine being in a virtual space that you actually have access to these tools and you can start prototyping ideas anywhere. Maybe the physical lab is in Utah, United States, but you can, in your VR headset or in a physical space, control those machines and start prototyping ideas. And that's the idea of decentralizing, in a way, architectural progress and creating this, platform that ideas
I love it.
Anywhere. And anyone should have access to creating ideas, right? And executing ideas.
I love it. I'm going to give you a breather, but I'm going to load that up because well done. I've got to give you a round of applause because I just noticed that during the video you were talking about it, and I got you to talk about it again. So there's a bit of inception there.
No, I think that's better than just showing the video with the voice there.
Yeah, exactly. But it looks so cool. And I think the video really helps it. So there's lots of stuff coming. There's lots of things on the roadmap, and I think that actually if people want to get a flavor for all of this stuff. NFTs, metaverse, exciting projects, how architecture gets involved. They've got to kind of go on a bit of their adventure, because it's not just about what you think about Sunken Blimp or I think. It's about people and what it means to them and them getting involved, right? So, I mean, I put the link down there, but you want to tell us briefly about the Discord community?
Yeah, of course. So we opened up this community to, start gathering people that are curious.
Yeah.
And that's why the very first thing that we did to open the community, instead of sharing the link on social media, like come to the community, we actually printed a couple hundred of ping pong balls.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think I've got a
QR
video. I've got a video of this somewhere.
So the idea was, let's spread ping pong balls on some of the major cities in the United States, and we focus on the United States for logistics reasons, but we spread ping pong balls in New York, Los Angeles, Denver, Colorado, Texas, in Austin, Texas, Miami, Tampa, St. Petersburg, a bunch of these large cities, Chicago. And the idea was, if someone was curious enough to scan a random ping pong ball they found on the street, perhaps they would be the type of curious that would be interested in what we're doing.
Yeah, there you go. There they are. That's oh, I never got one, but I'm a bit far. I think that's such a cool idea. Now, also, a little rumor told me, well, I think it was you, that people were trying to glitch the system, right, on the ping pongs. Is that correct?
Yes, because recently we started developing some augmented reality filters that you can see information by scanning the ping pong ball, and then you're seeing the 3D going around the ball. And then some people on Instagram, they actually use the
clever people,
picture of the ping pong ball to actually do the filter, and it worked. And I mean, there's no problems with that, right? Because it shows that some people are curious and they want to see this information too, right? But we're doing that to say everyone that has a ping pong ball, that's also a communication tool, right? Now you can see some updates about Sunken Blimp in 3D flying around the ball. And that's what we're interested in, the connection between physical and digital, which is not new, but what are the possibilities within that?
Well, let me tell you, when I was studying architecture, I used to have, and I went to Manchester, so this is 2012, so you got to give me a chance. But I had the Kinect. Do you remember the Kinect came out, and everyone was hacking the Kinect? It was not quite as advanced today, but that was the cool idea.
I have one.
Oh, you have one. Let's bring it. Yeah. They were really cool. And then I wrote my thesis, and I wasn't the best at writing theses. Okay, I think I got like a C+, which isn't the best grade, because I was more into the design, and I'm a talker. I'm good at pitching. I'm not really good at writing long stuff, right? But I wrote it on virtual reality, and Twin Motion was just coming around the corner, and they were looking for investment. And I was like, oh my God, this is the future. And everyone was like, whatever, some architecture stuff. But I really enjoyed writing about that. And it's really interesting seeing VR, AR getting more and more and more powerful as kind of gaming technology gets powerful as well. Because I do think there is that link between, I mean, it's a massive industry. We all used to play Grand Theft Auto. I played it. They hire architects as well, Grand Theft Auto. But where I'm getting at is, the more graphics processing power, the more computers are getting more advanced, the more AI is getting interesting, all this computing power, then surely the stuff like you were talking about is getting more advanced, isn't it? Oh, I'll bring you back. So this is like a recent example then. I'll go back a little bit of scanning rooms and the room ship, which is another like mind explosion kind of conceptual project. I love it. What do you want to tell me about the room ship?
Yes, so that's the idea of the virtual community that we're developing. So
cool.
Discord is the community, the place we're housing the community right now. But the idea is that people would be able to interact and access these things, like the virtual lab or the stage, through their physical rooms. So once you scan your room and you upload it as like a digital twin, you can then fly around, and through these projected windows, you're seeing the outside world. Well, the outside virtual world. So imagine you're flying around, and then you can dock right? We call it docking because you can park your room and then you can change the environment you're perceiving through the window. So,
I
it's
love it.
bringing physical and digital. And you can see this is an example how it tracks your perspective using machine vision. So these digital windows are able to follow you and mimic the actual perspective, how you would be perceiving if that was a real window. This is some progress designs for the stage. And this is a bit outdated, the actual stage that is open right now, and anyone can join the stage, by the way.
Have you upgraded the stage, but it's still in Spatial, is that right?
Yes. We have a collaboration with Spatial, so the first version of the stage is there, which is open. Anyone can go use it, right? That's a space for the community to actually present, have events, have conversations. We have a bunch of events coming up already planned. And that's where we're going to do the competitions. So presenting the competitions to actually build in the physical sanctuary.
I love Spatial. You will laugh. I've actually paid for a Spatial server, and on the social, 1 or 2 people are interested because I've been busy. I haven't had much time. So, oh my God, I need to learn about Spatial. Maybe you can give me some tips. I haven't quite got a cool stage yet. It's the template they give.
No,
but maybe it can... That's kind of cool, right? Because that was the whole point. You got all these different worlds on the platform. I thought, let's bring actually Spatial up. Spatial, you should promote. You should sponsor me and Sunken Blimp right now because we're bringing it up for free. But I want to quickly show it because I quite like Spatial. And Spatial, I'm going to bring up your website. Don't sue me or give me a copyright claim. But I thought Spatial is really, really, really cool. Now. Some people say, I've been playing Second Life since 2012. And look, I've played The Sims. I'm the biggest geek you go. And I was in World of Warcraft in 2004. But what I like about Spatial is, in my opinion, it's super accessible that my mum on her mobile can go on there. And I love my mum to bits. She's amazing. She's not very good on computers. But she can go on Spatial. And that's, I think, really important, accessibility in these platforms. I mean, how do you feel about it, actually?
It's fantastic. And they have a really good community as well. I had the chance of talking a lot with Jake from Spatial, and they have an amazing support, an amazing team of people. And like you mentioned, it's easy, right? It's accessible.
Easy.
That's a really important thing when it comes to all of these things, the whole accessibility, right? And
you laugh at how empty this is. Look, oh my god, I think I'm crashing my live stream.
This is your 3D space.
Yeah, it's not loading though, and then it like made the live stream jank. There's nothing in there, so I've got to do something in there. But it's kind of cool. Oh, I know what's happening, so I'm gonna cancel it because what it was asking was for my microphone, and I wouldn't want it to override here. But you can still hear me, right?
Oh, yeah, you can.
Okay, cool. So I'll do that next time. But you've seen how blank that is, and we'll get up your awesome one now, which is like what? The finished, polished product. So, well, that's inspiring if you've got that setup. I'm going to bring it up now.
And the interesting thing is that you can also design your own space, right? And it's very easy to actually upload and use your own space. And what's actually interesting about this is the actual requirements you need for virtual architecture, right? In the physical world, if you're an architect building, you're going to have, I don't know if you can hear the dogs. I apologize.
Don't worry. I love dogs. I got my own dog. What dog have you got, quickly?
I have 2 Jack Russells.
Oh my gosh, Jack Russells. I love them, but they're crazy dogs, right? Like my old like auntie used to have a Jack Russell and stuff. Used to like scratch and go on, her head and stuff.
They're
quite fun.
They scare me sometimes. They're emotional and they're smart.
Hey, it's a deadly combo. But look, I'm interrupting your sanctuary and room ship talking about dogs. It looks cool. It looks so cool. And so you've got an amazing spatial stage, basically, haven't you? So everyone can hang out, right? How do they find that? Is it on your website?
So in our Discord we have the link there, and in the website We are updating those
Ah,
now, but there we
Tron
go.
is helping us.
There
There you
we
go.
go.
So there is a link on LinkedIn, so you can check in the comments and you can click his link. So that's awesome. Well, there you go. I gotta save that. It's a bit hard for me to type it out right now, but after this, I will save it. Check out that comment there. People as well, just before, if you'd like to put a little comment or you want to ask any questions to the Sunken Blimp, maybe for the next 10 minutes, send a message through. And if not, and you want to enjoy the eye candy, that's fine too. But oh yeah, all right.
And
Now,
well, what I was mentioning is something that is interesting to talk about, especially if people are coming in from architecture, right? And they're used to
Yeah.
building buildings. When you're building a physical building, you're going to have some requirements regarding, from ADA accessibility, accessibility in general to the budget itself. It regulates and determines some decisions. There's no such thing in the metaverse in that sense. With the for example, the building could be completely made of gold, right? In the virtual space. So budget doesn't really play a role. However, there are new requirements that are completely different, and people within the game design world have known for a very long time that the new budget is the poly count, right? The amount of all of that plays a role, because then that determines the experience in there. If it goes above a limit, you cannot upload at all. But at the same time, if it gets too heavy, it starts lagging. People don't have the same experience. So now, how do you design something that is still, you can still have some freedom. You can still do what you want to do. And if you want to do beautiful curves and reflection and detailed materials and still function within this without being a bad experience. So that's a whole other conversation, right? That, we're starting to learn and experiment with all of that now, but we didn't have that before in physical architecture.
It's a whole different set of rules, isn't it? And I think where it can, you're right. Maybe that's another topic we can return to, because quite a poignant and pointy topic is the role of the architect in the metaverse. And sneak preview, and this is just my thoughts, is that I think it's massively valuable. But as you say as well, in theory, there's lots of people that can totally design these worlds, and they don't need to have the legal title of an architect in the UK or the US. So it'll be very interesting to see how that materializes. And like you said, and I think there's a space for both, because in my head, there's so many awesome skills that an architect has, like the way you can design areas, the way that you can design, like the way you design the stage. But equally, a game designer, they're going to know those polygon counts. They're going to know all them quick tricks to make that immersive experience. So it will be interesting to see which way it goes.
Yes, and that's why I think collaboration within both worlds is interesting. Because it's not a competition. It's not, we shouldn't be, we architects need to take command of that and go beyond what game designers are doing. I think there's, both industries have really good assets. And what I think is very interesting about architects being part of this is because we are trained in creating spaces, right? Architecture is, dumbing it down or bringing to a very simple way of viewing it. It is the art of shaping the void, right? Because void has always been here, and we shape it with materials and objects and layouts and all. So that is the beauty of it. We are trained how to make people feel a certain way in a constructed space, so we can bring that idea into this spatial experiences into this virtual world. And I think that's amazing. That's what we should do.
Well, exactly. And if anyone saw during my my botched attempt to bring up spatial, I haven't done an architecture social one, so there's a good opening for anyone in the community that wants to put their stuff, and maybe there can be like a virtual plaque and QR code which goes back to them, and maybe they get a job out of it. That would be totally cool. Or and I guess because it's on the architecture social space, it can look a bit fudged or whatever, because it's just me. I don't care. As long as people are having fun, I don't really mind. But I tell you what, we have a bit of fun here because we're at the 40-minute mark. If anyone has a question, they can do. That's fine. I think a lot of people are just probably enjoying it, and there's a lot to take in, especially if you haven't gone into this world. You're sitting at work and then you're learning about the vessel and the room view and And so maybe it's a bit to digest, and that's totally cool too. But how about this? We'll flip it around live. So we didn't really have a chance to prepare before, which is great because I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask you any. You can ask me any questions that you would like to ask, if there are any at all, live the first time.
Well, I know I have one.
Oh, go on.
I know that you within Architecture Social, it's a good platform for job research and connecting employers with employees, and
Yeah.
connecting people within the industry. And I would like to ask, what is your opinion from this side of seeing the jobs going back and forth? How much do you think in 5 to 10 years the industry in architecture, do you see in 5 to 10 years the jobs in Architecture Social are going to be split between physical and non-physical architecture usage?
I'd love that. I predict it'll be like 10 to 20% digital. I'm trying to create a home on there because I think just by being open to it, then it would be nice if there's a digital part of the community. So just to bring a bit of clarity to why I give you that answer at 10 to 20%. So when I got into recruitment in 2014, because I was a Part 2 architectural assistant, so that's not qualified in the UK for any of our international listeners. But I then went into recruitment, and I thought, because I knew Rhino and Grasshopper, and I really believed in parametrics and digital fabrication, I was like, this is the future, right? So maybe I can do that in recruitment. And while a lot of my clients appreciated, knew that, there wasn't like a huge appetite in these companies to advertise these roles. There was one or two, and I would work on them, and my inner geek would just absolutely love it. However, the mass market on jobs tended to be for architects, but then you saw the evolution on Revit became what I think now is in the UK. So BIM, I should rephrase, is just like pretty mandatory in the UK for like 90% of jobs. And if people choose not to do it, then it's about 10 to 20% of the jobs that I normally recruit for with that skill set. It's not saying there's not any CAD jobs out there, but you have to remember why a company comes to a recruiter is because they can't find that skill set. There's loads of people with CAD, which is why it's not, why would you pay a recruiter to find you that? But that's where it gets really interesting, is that I think that there will be a tipping point in the industry where these things get adapted. So it was interesting. Again, I'm talking about Saadid, but they're a well-known company, and then they did a NFT exhibition online. So that, in my opinion, while it's at the design high-end, big profitable company, it's an example of the mainstream architecture companies adopting these skills. And I think that the more and more companies do that, the more and more we will see jobs. And then when that happens and there's a need and no one knows where to look, then maybe that's where the Architecture Social fills that need. I would like the Architecture Social as well there's an element of people can do what they want with it because I pay for it. And so with that, what's the Spider-Man quote? Great power, great responsibility. Well, it's more like I pay the bills, so do what you want. And so there's a freedom with there that if anyone is out there, you can totally do what you want on the Architecture Social. The thing is, though, it's just me right now. I don't have time to do all these cool projects. I don't have time to do spatial. And I if people want to get involved, I will give them the keys to the kingdom. But what am I involved, and what pays the bills in the Architecture Social is what I do in recruitment. And on the back of that, that's where all the information about getting jobs comes from. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say is I will definitely push it in that area. But to evolve in different ways, people have to get involved. And I'm sure, as you know, everyone has good intentions, but we all get busy in our lives. So it's very hard for people to do projects, and I don't expect them to do it. I will not pressurize people into doing something they don't have time to do. So either way, it's fine. Long answer. Hope it gives you an idea of my brain of where I'm at. And to go back to your last point to summarize, I think that it will happen, but it'll be 10 to 20% take up of digital.
Yeah, because it follows the market. So if the market switches to adapt that way more, so it follows that.
Yeah, well, and put it this way, like the old school recruitment, it's like any like tech company or experimentation. Just because I'm passionate about it, I'll do that Google thing. It'll go like 20% of my time will go on cool projects. Now I might not make any money from that, but that's cool because that's what the other part does the interesting bit. But you just like this. It's a big fat question mark. And I think that you have to be prepared to fail. Like there's a lot of stuff on the architecture social which hasn't worked, and that's okay because I'm learning. But it evolves, and people's behavior changes all the time, and that's okay too.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting to see where with where we were as like an industry. Like think of architecture in early 2000s,
Mm,
and now it's insane how much has changed already.
yeah,
And if you think the disruption, from having an office filled with drafters, right, and everyone, doing all of these things, and the adaptation of the computers, which disrupted sizes now, let's say big companies doing huge buildings,
yeah.
now they can have 10 people in their office. And during the pandemic we saw that we don't even need a physical office. Now it's those 10 people can be in different parts of the world.
Well, that's the most disruptive thing because, as you highlighted, since 2000 to 2020, there was a slow uptake of more and more computers, and maybe people can work a little bit remote, but not much because in architecture you need to be in the office. And then the pandemic came along, and it completely obliterated that viewpoint in a matter of weeks and months. Which, in one sense, I think while the pandemic's awful, and I know people have suffered, the one interesting bit about the pandemic is that it smashed that mindset and that you can actually work remote and you can do hybrid work. And now it's a new challenge because I think people kind of want to go to the office,
Yeah,
but people want the flexibility. But actually, I think that really helps with projects like this in architecture because the digital and the physical makes more sense than ever, in my opinion.
and I think also what really helps with that, and something that is really interesting, is that if you are working remote, now you don't need to have someone that is within the same city, that all went to the same university. Now the team can be composed of people from all over the world because it's the same
Exactly.
connection. So now you're having people in your team that have different mentalities, different approach to certain problems, because culture is different. Even like native language might be different, so their way of thinking is with other vocabulary in a way, so thought becomes different as well. And I think that
Totally.
makes a project or a team so much richer. We have now the experience at Sunken Blimp. We have people working with us that are from Colombia, Argentina, Venezuela, Sri Lanka. So it's such a range of approaches that I think it's very rich, to problem solving and thinking and creating in general, creating.
I agree with you, and let me just say this one example. So, I work with one company that purely works remote, and they're a BIM company. They're a cool BIM company. Let me tell you, people throw themselves at this role because it's purely remote. They're like throw themselves at it, and I kind of understand because a pure remote role where you get financially paid and you're not expected to go in is it's amazing, and you wouldn't have seen that really 5 years ago. So that's a kind of cool area with those digital and BIM companies as well. And I think everyone has their eye on the metaverse and how it will go. I can understand why sometimes people get fed up with the word metaverse because
Mhm.
it does get chucked around everywhere and
Yeah,
everything's a metaverse. And I totally get the fatigue. But if you can get past that and think about what you want to do in the digital world, it gets really interesting. So, I mean, what I was thinking now is that it could be a nice segue if you're happy with it. We'll bring up the website again. You can tell us if this conversation has resonated with anyone in the audience and they're like, want to find out what's going on or anything like that. How do they get in contact with you?
yes, of course. So if you check on the website, we have there further explanation on what we're doing, as well as the links to our social media with more of the experiments we're doing, the physical and digital experiments. And then you can join our Discord. So
oh yeah, that's down here underneath the. Let me get rid of the banner one sec. So down here, you got all the cool links to all this stuff, right?
yes,
But don't be scared of Discord. If anyone, you don't have to be a gamer to use it. We kind of smashed that mentality, right? So don't worry about thinking, oh my gosh, am I not cool enough for all that stuff? Everyone's welcome on Discord, right?
Yes, and that's the whole idea. That's where the community is right now. So the entire team is there. We are, talking and giving all of the announcements, all of the events we're hosting. It goes there first. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more about this and joining this project and joining Sunken Blimp, join our Discord and we'll go from there, and we'll meet there.
Amazing. So on that note, I'm going to clap now. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. I'm going to end the live stream, but stay on the line 1 second. Thank you everyone for the live stream. It's been great. Please reach out and check out the Sunken Blimp, and I will probably see you next week. I've got 1 or 2 burning topics, probably a little bit more focused on recruitment right now. That will help you get a job in the industry. But every now and then, you need to kind of take a bit of a journey. And I think Sunken Blimp is exactly the inspiration we need right now. So check it out, and I will end the live stream here. Thank you so much.
Thank
All right?
you. Fly deep.
Yeah, fly deep. Take